thinking about going back to school for a long time now, and only recently has it actually become feasible. And my plan was to spend most of 2017 researching schools, preparing my application materials, and apply to start in fall of 2018. But one day in late August or early September, I don't remember which, I was sitting in traffic on the way home from work, and it just kind of came upon me that I didn't know if I could go one more year under the status quo, and that if at all possible, I had to accelerate my plans and apply for fall 2017. So I talked it over with some friends and family, looked into when the deadlines were, and decided that it was in fact feasible. But it turned it into a mad rush. Instead of a whole year to kind of plan it all out, prepare my materials, research all the schools, I only had, a couple of months. It's not an approach that I would recommend. It meant that there were some schools that I was going to apply to that I just didn't have time to get ready for. And it also meant that the quality of my application materials suffered a bit. And I think that if I had had more time, I probably would have been more successful on some of the schools that I applied to. I started my list with USC and UCLA and NYU. Those are kind of the big no-brainers. And then there was also AFI, of course, and a few other programs that I was familiar with, like Florida State and DePaul and University of Texas here in Austin. And from there, I checked out the Hollywood Reporter's list of the top 25 film schools in the U.S., which they published for the last few years. I looked at the 2014, 2015, and 2016 versions of that list, compared them all to each other, and then also compared to other rankings lists from like U.S. News and USA Today, just to get a sense of where the reputations of all these schools were. And that was a starting point for me to go and research schools on their website, on forums like filmschool.org, and just generally scouring the internet for any reviews that I could find from parents and from other students who had gone there in the past, from other people who had applied, to try and flesh out the short list of schools that I was actually going to apply to. And then I had some preference criteria to apply. I would prefer to be in the LA area because I have some contacts out there who I could reconnect with. I wanted to be at a university so that I wasn't just going to be surrounded by film students. There would be other people studying other things and help give me a little bit more of a broad perspective. And that's one of the main reasons that AFI kind of fell off my list pretty early. And NYU wasn't a huge priority, and I ended up not having time to apply to them because they had a lot of specific requirements, materials that I couldn't repurpose for other schools, and an early deadline as well. So that one ended up falling off the list. University of Texas also fell off my list for time reasons. They're one of the only programs that I was looking at that required the GRE. And I had taken the GRE back in 2009, but those results are no longer valid. And I didn't have time to study up and retake the test in order to get that application in. And even though it's not in LA, it would have been the most affordable school and the most convenient. Since I'm already in Austin, I wouldn't have to move. Based on my research, I added Chapman University and Loyola Marymount University to my short list. And the thing that attracted me to Chapman is it was a conservatory program, but still at a university. After reading all of their course descriptions, I felt like it was a really good fit for my style of learning and the gaps that I had in my previous instruction. Also, they're well known for having top-notch equipment and facilities. What attracted me to LMU was their philosophy of instruction and their emphasis, or rather de-emphasis, on the film versus TV divide, and kind of the recognition that in the world that we're living in now, there's a continuum of cinematic experience all the way from your mobile phone to the web to TV to theatrical exhibition. LMU is also pretty deeply connected in Hollywood. They have a lot of industry partners, so that would be good for things like internships. With NYU and UT knocked off my list for time reasons, I was down to 4 schools, and I really felt that I needed at least 5. So I went back to my research and added CalArts back to my list. Even though it's not really a university type program, They did have a really solid kind of film directing program that I found really intriguing, so I decided to apply to them as well. Fast forward through months of excruciating waiting, not hearing anything, and I was rejected by USC, UCLA, and CalArts. I was waitlisted by LMU, which basically means I was not either accepted or rejected. And I think that's another case of where time sort of got to me. They didn't require the GRE, but they strongly recommended it. And since I didn't have that, I think if you put my application up against somebody else who was equally good, and they had the GRE and a decent score, and I didn't, I think that would have been the deciding factor. I don't know, that's 100% speculation, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. And then by process of elimination, I was accepted at Chapman. And it's a little discouraging to apply to 5 schools, be rejected by 3 of them outright, waitlisted by 1, and only get accepted by 1. But you have to look at where I applied. I didn't apply to any safety schools, so no schools where I would definitely get in. It was a roll of the dice on all of these schools. But over the course of this whole process of researching and then applying, I really started to feel that Chapman was a really good fit for me, a better fit than most of the other schools that I was actually applying to. I like how the school is set up to function essentially like a little mini studio, and I like the fact that they have some of the best equipment and facilities around, and that really does make a difference. I also like that they provide not insubstantial funding for thesis films. The last time I had to make a thesis film, I had to pay for it all myself, and my budget was consequently less than half, and sometimes even less than a third of what everybody else's budget was. And the film really suffered as a result of that. In fact, I don't usually show it to people anymore, partially because of the effects of that low budget. So there you have a brief overview of my Blitzkrieg grad school application process, how I went from deciding to apply to a successful application in the space of probably about 4 months. I will say one of the reasons that I think I was successful at Chapman, as opposed to some of the other schools, is that I sent in a really extensive portfolio. Most of the schools say, you send in 1 or maybe 2 visual samples, videos, along with a writing sample and so on. Chapman requested a portfolio of basically everything that I'd done, and so I sent them essentially everything that I'd done since about the year 2000. And I think that really made a strong case for me being a successful member of the cohort. Again, that's all 100% speculation, but I did feel good about the application when I made it, and I started to really see myself at Chapman, and now I will be at Chapman. So I'm looking forward to bringing you guys along with me. If you have anything, any specific questions that you want to know about my experience with applying to all these various schools, feel free to drop me a line. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.